Hi, I'm Kelly Kuo, Music Director of the Reno Chamber Orchestra. The pandemic has given many of us the opportunity to do a lot of thinking. How we live our lives, what is most important to us, things that might benefit from change, and trying new things. That last thing, trying new things, is something that really appealed to RCO, and our upcoming concert, Voices of a Nation, features collaborations that expand the programming beyond anything that RCO has ever done before. Exciting times. This image is sometimes the first thing that comes to mind when people think of opera. Believe me, this is not exclusive to non-musicians. I got my start as a conductor through the world of opera, and it holds a special place in my heart. So I'm super excited that RCO will present its first complete semi-staged opera to open this program. The composer of Trouble in Tahiti is Leonard Bernstein, one of the leading musical figures in the United States during the 20th century. He was admired as a conductor, pianist, teacher, author, as well as composer, especially given his ability to combine so-called serious music with the language of popular music, Latin American music, jazz, and musical theater. His greatest compositional success is arguably the following stage work.
Tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away. Tonight, there's only you tonight. What you are, what you do, what you say.
Trouble in Tahiti is a humorous but scathing satire on consumerism and revolves around a bourgeois marriage that is falling apart. Ironically, Bernstein composed it while he was on his honeymoon with the Chilean actress Felicia Montealegre, with whom he was married until her death in 1978. He not only wrote the music to this 45-minute opera, but also wrote the libretto, and both stage-directed and conducted the premiere himself in 1952. Set in the aftermath of World War II in a time of reactionary politics, which saw groups as mainstream as the League of Women Voters denounced as a communist front organization, this one-act opera unabashedly infuses musical references to 1950s pop culture without losing touch with the sincere pathos of its two main characters. The opera opens with a jazz trio who appear throughout the work as a sort of Greek chorus to provide satirical commentary to the drama. In the close harmonies and upbeat jazz rhythms, one hears the superficial pleasures of suburban family life in their tunes, which call up memories of television and radio jingles such as this one.
Let's go for Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Snap, it's crackle, what a happy sound. You gotta have the crackle or the sound I found. You can crackle, and cereal slapping. Snap, crackle, pop, makes the world go round.
Bernstein's trio purposely depicts an overly smiley commercialism, asking the three amplified singers to croon in a whispering, breathy pianissimo, and to never stop smiling. Bernstein uses the trio to satirize the suburban life of the, quote, traditional family that was projected as an American ideal in the 1950s. The very opening of the opera sets this mood immediately.
Friendly sun, opens the eyelids, opens the eyes, opens the eyelids, opens the eyes of the husband and wife. Kindles their faces, kindles their love, kindles their faces with greetings all up in the little white house in Wellesley. Suburbia.
The plot of Trouble in Tahiti revolves around the growing separation between a 1950s suburban American couple, Sam and Dinah. Sam works while Dinah stays at home taking care of their son, Junior. They face increasing isolation from each other as their marriage encounters relationship challenges around priorities, and they forget how to communicate. Sam engages in questionable dealings at work, possibly flirts with a secretary, and relieves his stress through playing handball with his buddies. Dinah releases her frustrations to a psychiatrist, relaying her longing to escape. When they meet on the street by accident, they go as far as to avoid lunching together on the pretext of having prior engagements. Both parents miss their son's play, and Dinah instead goes to watch a movie, an escapist fantasy of glamorous, exotic love that even she finds over the top. In Dinah's aria about the movie, Bernstein deliberately mocks the musical South Pacific.
awful movie. It's a crime what they put on the screen. I can hardly believe what I've seen. Do they think we're a lot of children? We're 4 and 4-year-old. What? Devil! What nonsense! What escapist technicolor to waddle! Trouble in Tahiti, indeed. Trouble in Tahiti, imagine. There she is in her introduce room, floating, 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 all among the floating clouds.
An image of feminine modernity was obsessively marketed to American women after World War II, one that presented love, marriage, and family as a woman's reason to be, with housewifery as her only legitimate vocation. Confined in this role, Dinah, like so many educated middle-class women of the time, suffered from a social system that pushed conformity and compliance in exchange for a dull sense of security. It is both a hilariously entertaining and sober melancholy opera about a couple in a troubled marriage, desperate to rekindle their love. RCO will be performing a chamber orchestra version of the work that further shines light on the intimacy of this piece. The team behind the production is led by guest conductor Ray Hotoda and stage director James Brown. Ray has been the music director of the Fresno Philharmonic since 2017, and James is the chair of vocal studies at Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma, Washington. Heading up the cast are mezzo-soprano Soon Cho as the disenchanted housewife Dinah, and bass baritone Damian Jeter as the self-centered head of the household, Sam. After the opera, RCO performs one of the most iconic pieces of American classical music that has been written, Appalachian Spring, by the so-called president of American music, Aaron Copland. But the journey to this piece started first with Copland's earlier complex and atonal compositions. In the early 1930s, Copland met the famous choreographer Martha Graham at a concert that included his piano variations. After the concert, she told him she wanted to dance to it, a task that Copland told her was impossible. See if you agree with Copland. Well, Martha ended up proving Copland wrong, and it planted the seeds for future collaboration. Later in the 1930s, Copland sensed audiences becoming disenchanted with the less accessible music that he and a large majority of American composers at the time were writing. Committed to creating a distinctive American voice in music, he turned to a style that he felt was simpler, one that drew on folk melodies and rhythms that immediately conjures up the openness of the American landscape, such as this piece. His ballets Billy the Kid and Rodeo, the piece you just heard, used this new style to great success and earned him a commission from a patron to write a dance piece for the grand sum of $500. And which choreographer did Copland choose to work with? Yes, the same Martha Graham who had planted a seed for future collaboration years previous when she blew Copland away with her ability to visualize dance material in his harmonically and rhythmically complex piano variations. About his writing process for this work, the composer said, quote, "I was thinking primarily about Martha and her unique choreographic style. Nobody else seems quite like Martha. She's so proud, so very much herself. There's something prim and restrained, simple yet strong about her, which one tends to think of as American." Copland composed the music for his new ballet for a chamber ensemble of 13 musicians based upon a scenario that Martha Graham provided that was inspired by this part of an epic poem by the American poet Hart Crane called The Bridge. The story Graham imagined was that of a pioneer celebration around a newly built farmhouse in the hills of Pennsylvania in the early 19th century. Like Trouble in Tahiti, this story revolves around a domestic partnership. But in the ballet, it's the experienced and slightly bitter neighbors who caution the new couple about the unpredictable and terrible aspects of life. Unperturbed by the warnings, the duo is left quiet and strong in their new house. Here is a little of Martha Graham's original ballet. Here's an interesting fun fact for you. The title of the ballet wasn't determined by Martha until after Copland had nearly completed writing the music. So, Copland composed the piece without having Appalachia in mind at all, let alone a pool of water or a specific season of the year. And it amused him whenever audience members would gush how he had so accurately captured the essence of the Appalachian spirit. There are 14 musical sections of the ballet that juxtapose scampering outbursts, church-like chorales, and country dances. But the most memorable part of Appalachian Spring might be the ending section, which is a set of variations on this Shaker melody called Simple Gifts.
'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we get to the place that's right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shall not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
RCO's performance will be a collaboration with the Seattle-based Guild Dance Company and its artistic director, Alexander Ung. In this new and exciting retelling, they will update Martha Graham's story to reflect what American life looks like now with diversity, culture, sexuality, and community through contemporary movement and artistry. Premiered in October 1944, Appalachian Spring, the ballet, received the Pulitzer Prize in 1945, and the music has become an integral part of our American musical heritage. So much so that Copland put together an orchestral suite for full orchestra that has become very popular in concert halls around the world. Though the larger orchestration showcases a greater variety of instrumental color and power, I don't think it captures the same level of intimacy of the original version that you'll hear in our performance. And since I'm not conducting, I will get to experience this in an audience with you. See you at the concert.